What is up, everybody? We've got the latest episode of Real Estate Uncensored is coming at you. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. Couple of amazing guests today. It's going to be an awesome episode. We're talking with Michael Higdon about how to build a recession-proof business. We're beginning talking about probates and some of the things that he's doing in prospecting with people like FSBOs and expireds and mindset, dialing and all kinds of good stuff. We've also got Gene, the Volpenator, is here. He's got a social media and or tech tip for us, which I have no idea what he's going to say. Gene is just going to be Gene for a few minutes. But before then, we have the junior grandmaster himself in the house, in the co-pilot seat, where he so belongs, Greg McDaniel. Greg, what's up today?
What up, Pimpalicious? Man, it is Friday. I'm Michael, and Gene and I were all laughing our butts off air. We have a Greg reads mean tweets edition today. I have a especially venomous hater, which I love her little scrumptious little cheeks. I cannot wait to read it. She is full of spit and vinegar. God bless her little soul. But besides that, I am looking forward to today's show. We are going to have so much fun. And yesterday I did something, Matt, I've never done before. I actually went live. Instead of doing circle prospecting, I did follow-up calls.
Oh, Greg, what?
Ooh. I know. And guess what happened? I found out I lost
you got a real lead.
Deal. Fuck.
You found out you lost a double-sided deal.
Yeah, I know. No one's perfect, including you. But it is something that I got to. It's awesome to go through all this stuff and really learn and show everybody that, hey, look, not every person that's in the spotlight is rosy and perfect, and not everything is sunshine, rainbows, unicorns, and chocolate, right? People have shitty days, no matter if they have a stage or don't have a stage. And like I've always said, I'm just a human being, and I epically suck at fucking follow-up. So I had to eat it live and admit it. But every one of the ladies that I talked to thanked me profusely for calling. I found a pocket listing for about. She wants to sell for 1.6. I think it can sell for 1.9. So she'll be happy when I come in at 1.7. And then I found a $1.85 million potential deal and another $1 million deal just in follow-up. So everyone who doesn't do follow-ups yet, get your bitch ass into your database and start calling back and talk to people who like you. Whew. Okay, back to you, Johnson.
Man, I never thought I'd see the day where Greg McDaniel delivered a rant on follow-up.
I know, right?
That's funny. All right, so before we bring Gene in, let's bring Michael in. And Michael, just give everybody kind of a quick sense of just a little 60-second bio, who you are, where you are, what you do.
I am in Louisville, Kentucky. I've been in the business for 15 years. I'm with Remax Properties East is our local brokerage here, but I sell strictly single-family residential houses here in Louisville.
Awesome. And so you were, before we went on the air, you were telling us a little bit about your background. You came from a team, and then now you're solo. Give people an idea of kind of where you came out of and why you're solo.
Sure. I started in 2002, 2003, and was by myself until 2008. And then when the market, really fell apart, I teamed up with a couple of older gentlemen that were 20 years my senior, and we had a great team for a long period of time. Really killed it here locally in the Louisville market. I had an opportunity to branch back out on my own, and the numbers were kind of more in my favor to do that. And I wanted to build a team under my own name. So did that a year and a half ago, and have never looked back, and having some real success with that now.
Yeah, and we'll get into kind of the lead generation stuff in a second, but I want people to kind of understand where your background is coming from. You've done both. You've done the team thing, very similar team structure to what Greg has been a part of, kind of a community type team where you guys are all sharing admin staff, sharing the responsibility of lead generation, and then sharing equally in the profits. So I know there's a lot of people that are curious about kind of how that works, pros and cons. Maybe we can get to that later in the episode. I know there's a lot of stuff we want to get to, and Gene's got a tip. Before we get to that, there was a couple things that caught my eye on the Facebook group. This is the lead gen scripts and objections group, and a couple of FSBO things kind of jumped out at me. I wanted to go super tactical first. This is very specific objection handler. So it's the objection of we need to net a certain amount, but they are overpriced in order to get there. So Greg, let's start with you. How would you handle that objection?
So they need to net a certain amount, but they're overpriced for the market already. There's two opportunities. One, you can advise them not to go onto the market and wait until the value is there, which is going to be the path of least resistance, and it's going to show to them that you're not just a commission-hungry agent and you do actually care about them and their bottom line and their well-being. Because you can never push someone out of a house. You can pull them out, but you can't push them out of a house. And if they can't make the money, then they can't make the money. It's like fitting a square peg in a round hole. But if you think you're within a frog's fart of getting that value, but you're just that close. I mean, there is just that close. That's more like a bullfrog, but
okay.
But you can go on the market. Like I have a property right now. We're on the market. We're within within a very small margin of where it possibly could sell at. Mm-hmm. And so we threw it out there. Now they didn't quite net exactly what they needed, but Matt, what they could do is that they could go back to who did we have on the show from
Brian from Unison?
Yes, you can go to Unison and they'll make up the additional up to 20% of what you might need as a down to get into that next property if you need a certain amount to get into the next home. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. But I mean, that's probably the two ways that I would recommend. Either hold off or go talk to Unison, help them make up the difference if they need to get into a bigger property.
Yeah. Michael, what about you? How would you handle that from just a straight?
I was always taught to go back and find what the true motivation is and then use that, kind of bring that back around and just say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, which is more important to you, to net the most amount of money, or is it to get over to Lake Forest so you can be closer to your schools, the golf course, whatever, if we can still net you that amount of money, could we go ahead and set an appointment, get together, and just make sure that is definitely what the market's going to respond to you with? Because it's not me determining that, it's not you determining that, it's what the market's going to determine on that.
Yeah, you're 100% right. The market is always going to dictate the true value or true price of a property. And we always say here, in our area, that a price can fluctuate $50,000 any given Sunday. So it's worthwhile to hit the market and just see if you can. Again, if you're within that margin of error where it could work out.
I was going to say, everyone in the Midwest just wanted to get up and throw a rock at you right now, Greg.
We're
talking about an area like, yeah, exactly. I'm from Omaha, where people haggle over, should we list it for, $59,691, or maybe should we list it at like 59,101? We're talking about swings of hundreds of dollars, triple digit swings. Yeah, just thought I'd point that out. Okay, so there was another really, really good one that, and this is very serious. I think we all need to take this one very, very seriously. But the objection that came up, and I want to get who brought this one up. I want to see if I can find the actual one. Because this is really good. I want to make sure I get the phrasing right.
Father O'Reilly.
Father O'Reilly. Okay. So the context of the question was they're talking to someone whose home didn't sell, and the objection was the Lord didn't sell it. Greg. Oh, yeah. How would you handle that? My son. Gregory, my son. How would you handle that objection?
Yes, Father.
Yes.
As I get back on your knees and keep praying. Obviously, it didn't quite reach him. It went to his voicemail. But I'm pissing off every believer right now. But, in all honesty, it comes down to you being the professional in the transaction. And if someone is going to come at you and say, look, well, the Lord just didn't sell it, that's not really what they're saying. What they're saying is that they probably had something to do with picking the price. So instead of them taking the blame, they're passing the buck off. And the first person to pass the buck off to is going to be the big dude upstairs. And so, why not pass it off to someone no one's ever seen before, because he can't go around the corner and be like, see, fucking Bob did. That's his problem. He didn't do it over there. It's like, no, the Lord did not want this to sell. Yeah, he does. He just has to sell at market price. That's the only problem.
Now, Michael, you're in the Bible Belt. How would you handle this objection?
Again, maybe the Lord steered you to the wrong agent. Did you ever consider that? Why don't we get together? Why don't you and I get together and pray about it together and see if I can help you out and be the right agent for you?
That's actually good.
Can we pray over a calculator while we do this? The Lord is directing my fingers to, it's going to sell for $245,000. There it is. He has spoken. Let it be done.
All right. Well, that brings us to a very important segment of the show, which is Greg Reed's.
Hold the phone.
Wait.
Why do I not get to answer that?
You want to contribute on the objection handler?
Absolutely.
Why do I not get to answer that question? You know this is going to go off the rails? Is that what it is?
I do know this. The sprinkle in a little East Coast, and yeah, I know it's going to quickly go off the rails.
Ready? Here it comes.
All right.
Yo, this is not Jesus' marketing plan. Wait till you see what I do to list your house. Boom. Hashtag boom. How do you like that?
Hashtag mic drop. All right. Fair point. I like it, Gene. All right, Greg.
Matt Walter had a great one. Objection handler says, "I am the Lord."
All right. That's a strong move. Yeah, you better be able to back that up.
Yeah, Walter.
So feel free to bring some wine with you. Okay. So let's.
I'm joking.
Oh wow.
Greg, do you have that? The hater comment? Greg reads hater comment. Okay,
I do.
I'm going to get to that before we get to Gene.
Okay, hater
if you refresh, there might be another one. If you refresh,
that is true, actually.
No, I have two of them. She replied. Okay, this is from Elizabeth. Hello, I recently played you on a podcast, and it was shocking what I heard. How much you use profanity and the word blessing at the same time? Disgusting. You are horrible. I am removing you. My response: good. We're happy to see you leave, Elizabeth. Please do not tell anyone about us because you are not the type of agent we want watching our podcast. Her reply: you're welcome. Remember, people can see through you. A bad tree will not bear good fruit. You're building on sand. Yes, these are Bible verses. And I may not be rich in the business, but at least I know the difference between professional and unprofessional. A double fuck you to you, ma'am.
Oh, boy.
Wow. Yeah, and here I thought, Gene, you were going to be the one that lead us right off the cliff, and it's my compatriot, my co-host, my co-partner.
Wow.
You asked me to read the hater.
All right.
I had to read the hate mail.
All right. Okay, hang on. I just got to cleanse myself from that. Hang on. The double F you. So we've got some good ones, got some good comments, guys. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you're having a good time, make sure to let us know. Hit the like and heart button here on Facebook. And so Paul Franklin's response to the objection handler was, the Lord saw fit to bring us together today. I think that's a pretty good one. I like that.
That's solid.
That's nice. I know it's solid. Dave Woodson says, I'm walking on water over here. That gave me the visual of I'm just picturing somebody, like if Jesus was making prospecting calls at a stand-up desk, instead of walking on a treadmill, he'd be walking on water while he's making
a water treadmill.
Yeah, it's a water treadmill. Exactly.
Like a wave machine, but for God.
Exactly. All right.
Oh, we're going to hell today.
Oh man. Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so let's get to it, Gene. What have you got for us today?
Well, first off, why don't Greg? I think you need to tell everybody what your Twitter handle is because I just tweeted you 2 minutes ago.
Oh man!
I think that this could end up being a bit. I did. I'm not kidding. I really did. And you should tell everybody what it is so we can.
Greg, I have Twitter.
I have Twitter.
How about this? I'll post it in your. I'll post it in the newsfeed. Okay.
You're gonna have to send it like in a Facebook post or a message or something like that. Like Greg doesn't even know how to check his Twitter account.
This is my Twitter account. I don't even know my password.
There it is, buddy. I'm gonna do it while we're talking. So
right,
okay, good.
Okay. And I actually did send you a meat tweet, so you should read it because it's good.
Okay.
There it is, right there. So we're going to talk about Google Keyword Tool, right?
Okay.
All right. So here's what that is. If you have an analytics account, which if you have a Google account, you do have an analytics account. You can basically go on, and the keyword tool is used a lot for if you're going to advertise via Google pay-per-click or PPC is what they call it, right? So in this particular case, I'm bringing up the Google keyword tool because you can look up certain phrases around anything really, and it shows you how many people are searching for that phrase in your area in the country. So for example, Danville real estate would be one of the things for Greg. And what it'll also do for you is, in addition to show you the stats on that, it will give you other ideas. So it transposes the words, real estate in Danville. It'll show you some other things that are potential good sellers. Because from Google's perspective, they want you to give them advertising dollars and select the highest bid or the one that's searched the most, right? Mm-hmm. But the reason why I'm bringing the tool up is if you're into Google PPC, it's a good idea. But you can also use these tags for your hashtags across other platforms. So if you find that in Danville real estate, the keyword most searched is Danville real estate, then that would be a clue to use some of those keywords throughout your Instagram posts, or I should say hashtags, in the hashtags on your Instagram post or on your Facebook post or on Twitter, and you'll get more activity that way. Because if people are searching for them on Google, they're probably searching for the same type of things across multiple platforms, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then if it's a phrase that you pull off the Google keyword tool, even better to use it in the titles of your YouTube videos. So let's say you do whether it's a recorded behind the scenes video or whether you do Facebook Live and then you put it up on YouTube later. If you find out what the top keywords are for real estate in your area, absolutely do a series of videos where those videos are the keywords that people are searching for, and you might actually get your video being served up in the main Google search results, not even going to YouTube. That's one of the things me and you, Greg, did for the podcast.
Great stuff.
I just wrote down Google PPC, make videos. You it right out of my mouth.
That is my job, is to say what you're going to say before you're going to say it.
No. What was I going to say?
It's the cleaner version. That's the cleaner version.
It is the cleaner version. If I say it first, it'll end up being clean. Walter says, people still use Twitter? ? That's a great question, Gene. What's your perspective on that? Because you're knee deep in this stuff.
Listen, my perspective is this: it's an easy platform to use. There's a lot of reasons why you could use it, but what I would say is, go Google the top people in your industry. Twitter shows up on the first page of everything. It's still a powerful force. There's 500-600 million users. They haven't, it's the demise of Google Plus and Twitter has always been the topic of conversation. For some reason, they still increase in users every month. A lot of people don't understand it, so they hate it. It's more of a dynamic phone book for me. But when you Google somebody or somebody's name and Twitter ends up being the third one on Google's first page, Google's telling you they're still important. So why not?
Yeah. All right. And this is where this fits into the bigger context of the conversation, Michael. We're going to talk about how you're scaling up essentially from around 4 to 5 deals a month, and you want to scale up to 10, 15 deals a month. You want to do 75 to 100 deals a year. Like, that's one of the ways that people can scale up, is to shift a little bit of the prospecting time, or maybe more so the follow-up time, and hire an assistant to help out with it, stuff like that, so that they can put into more of the stuff that Gene is talking about, the marketing activities that start to bring you inbound leads, rather than having to always go out and find them. But we'll dip into that a little bit more later. But before we get into that, Gene, just real quick, how do people connect with you?
GeneVolpe.com or GVImedia.com. And like you always say, if I wouldn't be worth my salt in marketing if you couldn't do a Google search on my name and find me. My phone numbers are all accessible. My email is accessible. GeneVolpe.com is the best way.
And you guys, the reason why we are having Gene back on, and Gene just got accepted to be on a speaking tour with who again? Gene?
I'm not sure if I can say yet. A pretty big national mortgage bank. I'm not sure if I can put out yet.
A big group. But the reason why we bring Gene on, guys, is because he can hold attention, and he's a wealth of knowledge. So I hired him. He's on my team. He and I were just talking about rolling out one of our next campaigns here for Danville. And I honestly, and Gene does not know I'm going to say this, I am honestly impressed every time that I talk to him because of the way he thinks, and it's so easy for me to understand it. And so if you guys are looking for someone to do your social media, this is not a paid plug. This is nothing more than just a happy client that happens to be on air. Dude, seriously, look him up. You will see some stuff you haven't seen before. And like the first time I was playing around that's gonna sound so bad. The first time I was playing around with the back end.
Oh my God!
I know we were in a circle of trust already.
Wow.
But yes, the first time, never mind, I was in your back end. It was amazing to see all this cool whole social media wall of all this cool stuff. I dorked out for probably 45 minutes, clicking on all the buttons and playing with everything back there. It was awesome. So yeah, take a look at it. All right.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate that.
No problem, brother.
All right. Gene, thank you so much. Go to just go search him. That's all.
Thank you, boys.
Even
Michael,
if you have to use
fun.
the antiquated Google Plus or Twitter.
Or Twitter.
look them up on the Twitter. All right,
you guys have a great weekend.
Later, buddy.
You too.
All right, Michael. So let's get into your story a little bit, and then we'll talk about probate and all the fun stuff that you're working on. So give us an idea of your background. We're coming out of that community team, and what's always been kind of your sweet spot in terms of generating leads.
Well, I mean, a lot of referrals from past clients, sphere of influence, really hammered on those. I'm very Mike Ferry centric.
Mhm.
So I've got, I'm still calling all the expires for sell by owners, just listed, just solds. I always talk about legs on the table. What are the things that are working for me? How many places can I go, wide in terms of what's working? How many legs can I add that are going to be productive to me, and getting rid of the things that aren't productive to me, and really looking at my numbers and seeing what really works.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've always been. I mean, you talk about expired FSBOs and the calling around just listed, just sold.
Mm-hmm.
So are you really following like the true, like prospecting from 8 to 11, and then you do your follow up?
Yes.
Like, do you have your kind of ritual?
I'm on the phones. Yeah, I'm role playing from 7:30 to 8 o'clock. I get in here, pull some numbers. I'm normally on the phone between 8:15 and 8:30, and I go till 11:30. So a good solid 3 hours. I'm doing a hangout with 5 to 10 solid realtors all over the East Coast, so that we are listening to each other, giving advice, ribbing each other if we're doing the wrong things, or
Right.
making sure that we're not sitting there with our headphones off on the hangout. It's like, hey, you need to have those on when you're prospecting. So in our market, though, it's a lot like markets around the country. I know right now we've got roughly 800,000 people in our market, give or take. This morning we had 3,850 active listings. Pendings were 3,029. So our churn rate is very high. So I mean, it's a 15 to 20 year low in terms of that. So I have about 2 to 3 expireds a day, maybe. So there's just not a strong. There's not a strong pool of expires to call. So you've got to go either further back to expireds or call or cancels or whatever you're going to call on that. And yesterday I made contact with 10 for sell by owners. 7 of those had already sold by themselves.
Wow. And just what did they do? Just hire an attorney or something, do the back end for them?
Yeah. I mean, they either had previous experience or just call a closing attorney locally to do the contract, or print out just a state contract. So unfortunately, you can't use that. Hey, 98%, typically list or sell with a realtor, because locally if they're a hot property and they know it, they're getting top dollar, and they're selling themselves just because the buyers in this market have nothing else to look at. So they have to go outside the normal MLS to find, a good house. And it's just that competitive.
So what kind of legal issues are you running into, Michael, in regards to, when you have a real estate agent that's a realtor, protecting the interest of the buyer or the seller, when there's no real estate agent involved, are you seeing more? I mean, I don't know if you track this or not, but it just popped in my head. But are you seeing more lawsuits or less lawsuits, or just more problems or less problems with that? When there's no guiding light.
I don't really track that much. I have shown my fair share of for sell by owners. There is some ignorance on their part on what they can and cannot do, and they don't even know that they have to present a disclosure to every party that's coming in. So a lot of times I'll take a copy of a blank seller disclosure and say, hey, here, you need to fill this out if we're going to buy this house. He's like, I'm not filling that out. I'm like, well, yeah, you're going to have to, whether it's with me or whether it's with the closing attorney at the closing table, to let them know what's wrong with the property, so that you're not going to be charged with fraud in the future. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. I said, if you want me to quote the statute that you have to quote to do that, I'd be happy to do that. So I think there is some ignorance in it, but there's a lot of blind luck too, just because it's such a slim amount of listings that are out there.
Well, I know that I know you're killing it down there, but just a thought popped in my mind. What if doing some sort of a video baiting people, like you build a whole build up on the video and then you cut it off? And if you guys want to know what most people get sued over, my number is blah, blah, blah. Then you're able to get these people to call you, potentially develop a relationship, and then make that like the big nasty, but there's a whole bunch of other small ones leading up to the big nasty. That way you can be seen as the professional. I mean, is anyone doing something like that?
Interesting.
Very good idea. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Cool. Matt, I told you I am worth my salt.
Great. we have a strategy session today, and you blew your one big idea on somebody else's business. What the hell, man? What are we going to talk about this afternoon? It's going to be all me. It's going to be all me talking. So, Michael, let's get into the probate stuff a little bit. We talked very, very briefly about it with Michael Young here a few weeks ago, which you kind of introduced me to, because you do some similar things. I think approach it differently. And we didn't get a chance with Michael to get really into depth because there was so much else to talk about with him. That was a fun conversation. But I'd love to go a little bit more in depth in terms of the practical stuff of what you're doing. So let's start just at the beginning and kind of how you started getting into that and why you market that way on top of all the
Well,
other stuff that you're doing.
it started actually with Michael Young. I was at a Mike Ferry event probably 6-7 years ago, and Mike Ferry had Michael on stage, and he was talking about, if you wanted, this is the main guy that does it with probates and estates across the, he's in San Francisco. I was like, well, that's interesting. That's hey. So that's interesting. So I started to look more into it and called Michael and asked him about it. And he actually was providing, a class that he wasn't advertising. He said, pay me this, I'll teach you my system, and you can take that and do with it. He's more on the attorney side. He's really good with that, which I am graduating to and getting better with that. I've had more luck going directly at the executors and the administrators, as it were. I've got a few notes I'm going to refer to. So in our market, as I was talking about, there's right now in the country, we have the largest transfer of wealth going on between the baby boomers. Yeah. So you've got over 76 million people that are getting older. And unfortunately and fortunately, those people are passing away, and they're leaving an estate or a home that has to be sold or that their heir has to take care of. So that's where I kind of step in, and I get a list from a company called US Probates. That's the company that I use. That's not a plug for them, but they do a great job of scrubbing the data, getting me a huge list of leads just for the main county that I'm in. That's Jefferson County. I pay a subscription fee. They send that to me. That gives me the estate that the person had passed away from. That gives me the name of the executor or the administrator, whichever they're calling themselves. And it also gives me the name of the attorney and their phone number of whoever's handling that deal. So I get that the 18th of every month is when I get that. And my process is I go through that entire list and I scrub it, meaning I check and make sure that it's not currently active, pending, or sold, because that would be a waste of time. I check it on our PVA to make sure that they're still not, even though it's an estate, there still might be a husband or wife that's still living there. And I don't want to be so callous as to say, hey, I heard your significant other died.
Yeah.
Are you considering selling the house? Now some people would, and I sometimes send a mailer out to them where they are, and I miss it, and they're still living there. And they said, well, I am thinking about selling in the next 6 months. Either it's too big for me, or I have bad memories because my husband or wife's not here anymore. So you have to really play a compassionate role when going after that database. So you're mailing to them. And I also send a letter to the attorney as well, just showing them, hey, here's what we're doing on this side. So again, that letter plays a consultative. It's a very soft, compassionate role. So I'll send a letter out, and then 3 days later, I'm making a call to the individual that's the executor or the estate, and I've got a script that I go by when I'm talking to them.
Okay. Yeah. So let's role play that out a little bit. I'm curious to hear kind of how you balance that and
sure,
kind of convey the compassion.
I'm saying, hi, this is Michael Higdon with Remax. I'm looking for Matt. Matt, I noticed that you were the executor on this property over here on Main Street. Does that ring a bell? And they're like, well, yeah, that was mom and dad's house. Perfect. I do a lot of business with estates and executors like yourself, and I was calling to see, when do you or the estate plan on selling that home in the near future? Okay. And they're like, well, I'm in the clean out phase, or we're right in the mix of all that. When you hear that, your ears should perk up. And say, aha, okay. So, and then you go on to say, perfect. And seeing how it sounds like you're going to have to sell this property in the future, or is an heir going to be taking that? They're like, well, yeah, we're cleaning it out. When's the next time you're going to be over at the property? Are you going to need a real estate professional to assist you with that? Okay. And they're like, well, maybe. If you had someone that, was very experienced or specialized in selling estate properties, could we get together and talk about that? And then you just go into the process, and I have a whole script that I go through. If they're an out-of-town individual, that's even better. I've sold 20 estate properties where I never met the executor.
Really?
They've mailed me. They mail me the keys. I've helped with cleanouts, getting it converted, turned over. We send the documents to them in Florida, Alabama. They sign off on it. They send them a check at closing, and they couldn't speak highly of me at the closing table.
So do you ever to prospect these leads? Do you ever? And this is something I found out about. To go take a picture of the front of the house because there's going to be a mailing site somewhere besides the actual site's address, I'm assuming. What I did is I went down to Costco and I figured out if you can upload a photo to Costco and you can print a 3x5 out for 17 cents. And or you go bigger, obviously costs a little bit more, but 17 cents, and then put it in a letter. Hey, I'm sorry for your loss. Here's a picture of the front of the property. Not sure if you've been by the property in a while. If you have any questions about the local market, I'd love to be a resource for you in this, transitional time in life. Use me as a resource, kind of a thing.
I'd never tried that, but that's a great idea. But if you're coming across as the authority on that, you're going to have a lot more opportunity to get in front of them, especially if you say I've sold 100, 140 states like that. So it all depends upon the individual. If they're in town, if you can find out how many heirs there are and then seek out the problem child that's going to be one of those heirs and go directly at them.
Bastard.
Exactly. And say, because you want to reach out to them as well and find out, okay, well, it sounds like John isn't real keen on selling the property, but John doesn't have 2 nickels to put together, so he can't buy it. So you'll want to focus on, well, if I can talk to John and get him on board, could you and I get together and do some business together?
So find the pain point for the sticking point, and then basically grease the squeaky wheel.
Absolutely. And I mean, these people are getting a ton of letters already, and a lot of them are from low-end, investors that are looking to basically steal the properties.
Yeah.
I had a doctor client. It was a great story. Sat down with him. It was his mom and dad's house, and they were offering $75,000, $80,000 for the property. And it was a traditional 3-bedroom, 1-bath ranch with a basement. And I said, well, heck, I'll give you 76 for it. But the approach that I took with him and with every client was I said, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what I want to do is one, play a consultative role and sit down and show you 3 tiers. Number 1 is as is condition of what the property is, because a lot of these aren't in the best condition. Number 2 is we're going to look at, if you do a little bit of maybe put new carpet in or polish the floors or do some painting, here's the next level if you spend a little bit of money. And here's the top tier of what it could sell for if you gutted the whole thing and what it would sell for as a flip. And this gentleman, I went in and it had old shag, and I said, why don't you peel back this carpet, touch up these beautiful pine wood floors that hadn't been seen in 40 years, put some paint up. He spent $5,000, and the $75,000 offer he got went to $137,000 sale in only 1 day.
Wow.
Goodness.
So he's like, well, I never thought I'd have a $50,000, $60,000 turn on that.
Yeah,
that's
a hell of a
$5,000 return.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it was just, it was paint and carpet, and, trim was detailed out nice. And I'm, being in the business so long, you're going to get a list of contractors, whether they be painters, roofers, go-to guys that you can refer these people to. And they're truly, because a lot of times they're saying, I've never sold a house before. Mom and dad just named me as executor on this. I don't know what to do. So you come in and say, I can handle this, soup to nuts all the way through if you'll let me do it. And if you'll trust me, I'm going to not only get you the highest amount of money in the shortest amount of term, but in return, that's going to honor your mother and father and all the work that they did over the years to get to this place.
That's actually a really honest thing, because that families and parents and everyone's at some point in your life you're going to struggle to get into a property unless you're a multi-billionaire, and then you don't have those problems like us. But normal human beings do struggle to get into those properties, and to say that it brings honor to your parents, because your parents would probably want to see it sold obviously at the highest value for their kids, because they love their kids. And 2, why not bring it back to its original glory and let it go out to the next family the way they found it when they bought it.
Yeah. And these are very easy. These are easy. They're not easy sales, but there's not a lot of other realtors going after this type of segment. After I scrub my list, it starts at 180. So I'm mailing out to probably 80 to 100 people after that. And then, it probably turns into about 50 people after that. So my numbers, I'm able to probably get about 2 to 3 listings every month from that, which are turning into, not a guarantee, but a good, probably two listings sold every month from that.
Yeah.
So are you sending out just a stock letter with a printed address, or are you doing hand-addressed envelopes?
It's a stock letter. I've got it's hand-addressed, but it's a stock letter.
Okay.
It's basically, hey, we're writing to you in regards to the property located at blank. Our group realizes This may be a difficult time with you and the individuals involved with your loved one's estate. To that end, we've assisted several families that were going through the same issues and that you may find yourself facing today. What we offer is a consultative role to make the settling of the estate transaction or transition as smooth as possible. Please find listed below some of the various services we provide: clean out, maintenance, home repair, and of course, a free marketing analysis. If you're considering selling the above mentioned property and are in need of the services listed above, please give us a call. I can't tell you how many executors that I've sit down with and I said, well, why did you agree to meet with me? They said, out of the 25 to 50 letters that we got, yours had much more of a consultative, softer, caring tone. So if you can get in there, and that's truly the role that you want to play, because if you take care of them, and if there's a multiple heir situation and you treat each one of them with honor, you put them on your database, you're only increasing your database that much more, and they'll hire you again to sell their home.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, and that goes back to just overall real estate sales. I mean, you need to treat everybody with respect, with honor. I mean, even if you have that dick of a client, you have to treat them just as the same as that client that you just would spend your day off with, right? Because when it comes down to it, this is a job. This is what you do for a living. There has to be a standard of excellence and a standard of professionalism when you work with them. Because I know that there are a couple of folks that are been in past clients of ours that have been just nightmares. I mean, emotional, just wrecks. And they just take it all out on you, and then you have the people that are super mellow and chill. But the people that are the nightmares are the ones that are, if you take them by the hand and walk them through it, and they get to the end successfully, they're the ones that are going to love you.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day. Because it's hard enough,
Yeah, it's something we're trying to, Greg, you and I are trying to get better at talking about this kind of thing in terms of for example, the extreme empathy, right? Like really putting yourself in the position in the other person's shoes, and how much of a part that is of being respected, admired in your as a true professional in your field. I think that's been sorely missing, and we have not done a very good job of talking about that, just how important it is in building up your database and generating. I mean, Michael, you're running 50% past clients and referrals. That doesn't just come, that doesn't just happen. That is it is a byproduct of the empathetic yes, follow-up. I mean, obviously follow-up is a very important part of that, but you have to be following up on a positive experience where you actually had real empathy for them and left a good impression with them after they stopped working with you. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how much you follow up, right? So, I mean, it's just, I think we've done a disservice to the podcast, listenership, by not really hitting that point as much as we could, just how important it is.
And I want to take that to the next level, start developing either a Facebook page of, Louisville Estate Pro, where I can put on every time I sell an estate and then get a positive feedback or response from every person I sell for. Say, hey, here's another one. Here's another one. Do you know anybody? And then build those relationships, not only with executors and estates, but you go into the next level, which is, really building with the attorneys. And that's where you go from just having the apple to go into the apple tree. So that's feeding your source. And I've started to really develop some strong relationships with some good estate attorneys where you say, hey, I've got some credibility. I've sold this many estates, so I understand, the probate process, the clean out. So it's a win for the attorney, and you have to spell that out for him, because if it doesn't close, if it never gets past the probate process, and say, look, I'm going to get this to closing so that the estate's going to be closed, the heirs are going to get their check, you're going to get your check, and in the end, you get your check as well for doing a great job, so everybody's happy. And if you can spell that out and pick up 1 to 2 great estate attorneys, every month or every 2 months, you'll be like Michael Young, 20 years down the road, where he's got 150 attorneys where he doesn't even make the call anymore. Somebody just calls up and says, yeah, this attorney said I've got to use you to come list the estate house, and they're in San Francisco, where everything sells for over $1 million.
Oh yeah,
right now. So
you buy a dog.
Okay, it's a come list me call.
Yep.
Yeah.
The thing is that my friend Lily Chen, she's an agent over on the peninsula. She and I were challenged to each other, and we're like, okay, I think it was last week we challenged each other to call 10 attorneys, right? And it was Friday, and I'm like, shit, I didn't call my 10 attorneys. So I called 18, and I have them all booked out right here in a map, and I have my my trifold. I'm going to bring them a CD about my team. I'm going to go in there. There's only one attorney that said no, I don't want anything from you, and it's because he was retiring. And that's just in one city. I'm going to every friggin' city around me, and these guys are going to. I'm going to start dating these fools. Like, I'm going to start bringing these idiots roses and shit because I want their business. And I think that if you bring enough value and you show that you're interested and you actually care about them, so bring them information about the real estate industry, because they're attorneys. I mean, they're smart human beings, but give them something of value. So pop by once every other month or something with a new article, a new little something, a new little blah, 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 just touching base like you do to past clients. I'm going to start doing it to the attorneys and guys, if you don't know who to look for, it's probate and family law. Go look for family law attorneys. And it was really nice. The first guy I called, he actually was an agent with Jay Rockcliffe as well, and attorney. And he's like, "Oh, you know Terry?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's my dad." He's like, "I love your dad." I'm like, "Dude, I don't know what I'm doing, bro. What do I say?"
You lucked out, Greg. That's awesome.
Oh, I won the lotto on that one, dude.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so anything else? I know there's a couple of other things we can get to. We can get to scaling up. We can talk about database prospecting with an item of value. Anything else that you feel like people need to know, Michael, to jump into that kind of the probate game and just at least get started?
I mean, again, and you don't have to subscribe to a service like that. You can go to your local courthouse and just pull out. They'll have a list of probates and just find the probate section. And you've got to do a little. This is not your normal finding an expired and subscribing to it. You've got to do a little more legwork, but the payoff, can be threefold, and because there's not as many people doing this. And the other end of that, when you go into these properties, and let's say that they're not in the best condition, and the seller's just saying, "Look, I just want to get rid of this thing," and say, "Look, I'm not I know that investors have sent you business, but I'm an investor too. And if you have a pool of investors that you yourself work with, you can start building up your rental properties." If they say, "Well, I'll take $75,000 for it," say sold. You go in there, buy that property, keep it as a rental. Or if you have an investor that's looking for great rental properties to flip, because they're hard to come by right now, this is where you can go find the listings that never hit the market, is in the estate section. And that's been, I've done probably 4 or 5 double ends where an investor comes in. It's a $70,000 property, and you're double ending it, and it's, rinse, repeat. Yes, sir. Give me another.
Right. I mean, Matt, do we want to talk about the secret MLS a little bit? Because I mean, we just kind of we touched on it for a half a second with Michael.
Yeah, go ahead.
Michael, do you ever use Make Me Move on Zillow?
I have. Yeah, I know exactly what it is. I not as much as I probably should.
So just to kind of jump on your bandwagon on this kind of secret MLS thing, guys, if you go to Zillow and unclick you have the master buttons, the red and the blue, unclick the 2 masters so it clears the map, go to the blue, go to the bottom, it's going to say Make Me Move. Click on just Make Me Move, zoom back on the map. Every single blue dot you see there is someone that put their own information in about selling. Now they have photos and descriptions of what the property looks like. They will say, "Hey, I'll move for this price," and they have his estimate right below it. Then to the right in this big white box, you can email directly to them, and sometimes they even give their phone numbers. So this could be another opportunity to get those investors, if there's a property out there, like, "Ooh, that looks a little rough." Hey, could be a great opportunity to tap into that thing right there.
Great idea. Great nugget.
Cool.
I think that's number 3 for me today. And there's no
great nugget. Yeah, Greg's dropping golden nuggets all over the place there. Great, fantastic. Oh man, Paul Franklin has a great comment. He says he's listing a Make Me Move in a week or so. Congrats, Paul.
Nice,
awesome.
Paul.
Knuckles to you, buddy. All right, so Michael, let's get into how are you systematically keeping in touch with your database so that you're pulling off this like 50%, business coming from past clients and referrals. What's that system look like for you?
The simplest thing that Mike Ferry taught me was there are 26 letters in the alphabet. There's 13 weeks in the quarter. Okay, so that means you divide that within itself. So that means you have 2 letters of the alphabet that you're calling each week. So I go on my calendar. So the first part of July, you're going to call all your ABs that first week. Second week, C, D, E, F, and you keep going down like that. And you take the amount of days that you're prospecting that week. Let's say in the AB category, you have 40 people you're going to call. Okay, divided by 5. So that means you're calling 8 people every single day. And then you're just, whether you do that manually, print them all out, or whether you put those in a Mojo or a CRM and just classify them on my AB contacts, you're going through. The great thing with Mojo that we've been doing, and again, that's not a plug for Mojo. That's just one
don't
that
be
I
shy.
use.
We plug them all the time.
But you can, you put in there and just say, hey, good morning. This is Michael. Hey, make it kind of vanilla if they don't answer the phone. I wanted to take a moment again to remind you that I'm still in real estate business. If you know anyone who's thinking of buying and selling, give me a call. So that they're not there, it's going to dump that message into their phone book. You can count that as a contact, and then you're and again, it's just staying in front of them, like you said, getting those, whatever you want to call it, 33 touches or 28 or whatever, however many you're using every single week, and sending them the emails out and sending them whoever you're talking to. I do a lot of personal notes as well. I'm not a big Buffini guy, but I still believe in, even when I was in corporate America, we send out a lot of personal notes because people remember that, not only your sphere, but even estates. And when I talk to you, I'm sending a personal note out because they'll put that on the fridge and they'll remember your face.
Yeah.
They really.
So once you get to the end of, every week calling your database, then it starts over again the next quarter. So you're calling them a minimum 4 times every single year. You're sending something of value out in the mail to them. So you're staying with, and whether it be an email, newsletter as well, but just keeping those touches in front of them.
I think that's a fantastic. I love that idea of doing the AB, CD, blah blah blah. The two letters in your database every quarter, every 2 weeks. I think that's fantastic, and I think the handwritten notes are amazing. I got a card from my friend Arne, just writing just a really nice little card, super quick. Dude, I didn't throw it away. I kept it right here. So you're right. I mean, those do stick around because it's a lost art of communication and showing, gratitude. Most people like emoji, thumbs up, baby.
Just text me. Yeah.
It doesn't have the same like personal touch.
I need to find this, Greg. Please, if anybody knows where to find this, put this in the comments. But Greg, I'm going to send you a thank you card, and you're going to open it up, and all it's going to be is the Facebook like
big emoji.
Yeah. Like it's just an emoji with my initials.
Not even signed, just print it.
Yeah.
This is from me.
That should be your new card.
Exactly.
Or
a picture of you going like that.
Or you can just go have a card delivered to you with your mug on it. Oh, I love this one. This still cracks me up. Bridget sent this to me. I still love it. Makes me laugh every time.
All right. Well, let's in the last few minutes that we have left, let's talk about scaling up a little bit. So, Michael, you're in the phase of going from that you've maxed out really your own personal productivity, and you're rocking and rolling. You're doing 5, 8, 10 deals a month, and now you're trying to get to that next level. So, what's that look like for you? What's the process, and what can we learn from that?
The pulling my hair out phase. So right now I'm tracking. I'm at 35 closed pending right now for the year. So my goal is 70 for the year. So I'm right there on track. If I do more, if I do less, I'm okay with that. But in order, a good friend of mine is a very successful realtor in Nashville. He said, you're right in that chasm of that's so hard for realtors to get from getting from 50 to 75 deals. And Mike Ferry says that too. My coach said that is one of the hardest things in real estate to do, because you have to have an assistant of some point to get you through that, because you're spending 3-4 hours every morning doing the revenue producing activities, but then in the afternoon you're spending 3-4 hours doing $15 an hour work servicing the revenue producing activities that you just did that morning, and then you got to go out on the appointments that afternoon. So you're dog tired all the time. But getting from 75 to 125 deals is much easier because you have the personnel in place, you have the systems in place. So I hear that's the next step that I'm trying to get to.
That's a theory I've heard.
Yeah.
I've heard it from several people, and they just say, again, but if you keep, I've had 2-3 assistants in the last 9 months that I've gone through, just have not been the right fit. Haven't been able to pick up on the systems, or they were looking for something, more than what they interviewed for. So I'm going through the interview process again, and hiring and firing and right in the middle of that. So any techniques or tips are always appreciated on that.
Yeah.
It's the growth thing. It's when you have a good assistant, you need to treat them like the Queen of England. I mean, complete reverence. I mean, I always make the joke that Eileen works for us, we pay her, but we work for her. He's like, huh? Because but she dictates to us. And Midori, our interim, she's an agent on our team, our interim team manager, she just stepped up to the plate and is just knocking it out of the friggin' park, man. Super impressed with her.
I had a fantastic assistant for 8 years when I was on the team, and she went on to bigger and better things. So trying to replace that gold standard has been extremely hard. But like you said, they're out there, and when you find them, treat them like gold. I'm just in that point of finding somebody that's going to match my systems and what I'm looking to do. But it's out there. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, no, you'll
I think the hardest thing is getting enough candidates in the pipeline, and then knowing exactly what you're looking for, doing like your disc profile testing, and that way you kind of eliminate the people that aren't a good just behavior profile fit as quickly as possible before you even waste time with them on the phone, that kind of stuff. I mean, I've hired enough to know how hard it is to be disciplined about that, to keep going and keep generating more candidates and stuff like that. It's much easier to settle for somebody just to feel like, well, I just, let's get somebody in the door, let's get them working and stuff like that. When in reality, it's better to take your time on the front end and work on documenting and systematizing things before they come in the door, so that when they do, it's a smoother transition for them.
Hire slow and fire fast is what.
Exactly.
Matt has been browbeating me for going on years now to not be so people heavy, but to be system heavy. But I lucked out. Again, I hit the jackpot on this because we didn't quite have all of our systems put into place when Eileen went out on maternity leave. But thank God she still has her fingers and a phone, because she can text Midori and Eileen can text each other. So it's like, that old game show. You want to phone a friend? Oh yeah. And thank goodness.
Yeah, that's but those are probably the two things. Is like you said, hiring slowly and making sure that in the interim period you're doing a really good job of as much as you can of documenting and systematizing what you expect them to coming in and doing. And then everything I've heard from people that have done a lot of hiring in that area, it's always just generate a crap load of candidates.
Yeah.
However that needs to be done, whether that's Craigslist in your area, going back to your database is a great excuse to call your database, is to go through and ask them, hey, I'm looking for somebody in the local area. I'm looking for like a rock star admin person. If you know of anybody that fits that bill, that's looking for a new opportunity, please send them my way. Back when I was at Viral, we've written up letters and sent that to that, something to that effect out to people's database. I remember we did it one time for, Team Lally. They're the number one team in Hawaii, and they got like 270 responses from their database to that letter. Yeah.
And we've been friends for how long? And this is the first time you share something like this?
I guess I'm not the only one dropping golden nuggets today.
Good Lord.
We're going to have nothing to talk about on our strategy call later. It's all going to be just screwing around. But yeah, I mean, there's stuff like that it's a great way to go back to your database. You can do videos on it. You can put the video, boost it on Facebook, run it back on YouTube. You can, send it out by email. You can do all kinds of stuff to kind of mine your database and your social circle for that. I would do more of that if I had more of a social circle, like in the area where I'm looking for example, like the Philippines. So I end up advertising more on like other platforms. I just did like an hour-long training with a couple of my guys, because I'm going to help them hire VAs for each of them. And it's interesting going through that process of like training somebody else on how to hire. There's just so many small things you don't think about until you like have to teach somebody else how to do it, that comes out in that process. But yeah, it's so important to like really document, because I was going through like my process of how do I hire somebody, and it forced me to document out things that I hadn't really thought about. Right. Mm-hmm. So I literally had to go through and create a checklist for them on, okay, here's what you look for.
Would love to see that.
I can shoot that over to you. Although keep in mind, it is kind of for hiring a VA. But I will shoot that over. But in the last couple minutes that we have left, Michael, just share with people real quick where you're at. If they can send somebody your way, whether it's an agent, sure, whether it's connections, whether it's referrals, whatever, let them know where you're at, where you cover.
I cover all of Louisville and surrounding counties, Louisville, Kentucky. My website is wemovelouisville.com.
Nice.
wemovelouisville.com. My cell phone's 502-345-7698, and all my contact information is on my website. So
cool.
We Move Louisville.
Awesome, man.
And I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and
the main and a unique enough name that you're easy to find.
Yes.
which is nice. So it's a great way to connect with you there. So, Greg, you want to finish us out by letting people know about Getting Out Business?
Yes, guys. Hey, Getting Out Business is our program that I am putting the link into the chat now. If you guys are watching this on iTunes, listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher, go to getnowbusiness.com. Guys, it is a program that Matt and I put together. It's where you guys can learn how to get now business, hence the name, funny that. And you can do it with a low cost or no cost. So if you have a limited budget, we put in there provisions of $500 a month or less in prospecting in multiple different systems, and no door knocking, no cold calling. So if you are, a shut-in like Johnson and you don't want to talk to the human race.
I've been calling agoraphobic. I don't know that you ever straight up called me a shut-in before.
I know. Funny. I had to change it up today.
Okay.
But if you don't want to go out and door knock or cold call or anything else, guys, this is your product, and we're going to teach you about the Starbucks method, which Matt, I totally blanked on. I don't know why. We got to put that in the program. Starbucks method, where you guys can go literally work from Starbucks, and I can show you how you can meet clients and really have a lot of fun and how to run that.
That's how Josh Altman sold like a $30 million property to an NBA star. He used the Starbucks method.
Yes, he did. Mm-hmm. He still needs to thank me on that for that publication.
Yeah, I'm sure you came up with that idea. Yeah, exactly. Hey, I get my taste? Where's my taste, man? All right.
I need my cheddar, player.
That's right. All right. So getnowbusiness.com.
Getnowbusiness.com, guys. You can follow Matt and I both on Facebook here. Do not friend us. If you friend us, Matt will just not pay attention, and I just can't accept it. So, guys, follow us. You'll see what I'm doing live on Monday through Thursday. You'll see what Matt's going to start doing live, and then share this out like a virus in all the best ways. Let everyone know about what we're doing. We want to take over the world. We want to give free content out to folks that need it and can put it into their business. Matt, last night I talked to someone on my Making a Challenge. This woman literally has the world at her literal fingertips. And I smacked her upside the head so damn hard that she's going to have a concussion for a month. But at least she's going to go out there and she's going to start calling her peoples, and she's going to start making some money. So, guys, you need to start looking at your database and the people that are around you. You have more money surrounding you. All you need to do is ask.
Just Michael is a great example of that. You're going to do something like 70 deals this year, and half of those are coming from Sphere.
Yep, 50%.
Yeah. Insane, man. That's awesome. Awesome. Cool, guys. So check that out, getnowbusiness.com. And over the weekend, be making plans to join us on Monday's episode. So we got the phenomenal and fantastic Dr. Deborah Dupree is back with us. We're going to talk about better communication strategies. She's the one that we did the Introvert's Guide to Sales Success with. So she is an absolute wealth of knowledge when it comes to how to communicate better, how to sell better, whether you're an introvert or not. It works for everyone. So we're going to talk about better communication strategies on Monday. So join us for that episode, guys. Until then.
Yeah, guys. All right, guys. Peace out, ninjas. We go.
Gentlemen.